the nationally determined contribution which we have revised ourselves, setting ourselves extremely ambitious targets and achieving them and revising them also, do you feel that there is a very strong chance that we will achieve our net zero emission ahead of 2070?
Absolutely. I have no doubt about that. But there are two things which you must know and understand. You see, as I said in the beginning, every developing country, and I'm talking about the global south, has a right to grow, right? The developed countries have reached a certain level of per capita incomes. We have a right to grow to that. Now, growth entails consumption and emissions. Now, I'll need to add millions of square feet, trillions of square feet of real estate. My housing will grow, my buildings will grow. That needs cement. That needs steel. Now, if I make steel, you have emissions. If I make cement, you have emissions. And therefore, unless and until CCUS, carbon capture and sequestration, becomes viable, that carbon dioxide will be there, and that's one of the wages of growth. You must know one more thing, that our population is about 17% of the world population. Our contribution to the legacy carbon dioxide load, which has caused this rise in temperature 0.89 degrees, is just 4%. That's where we are at. I mean, you won't have Reuters talking about this. You won't have that. And despite all this, as I said, we have emerged as a leader in energy transition. Despite the fact that our contribution to the legacy carbon dioxide load is, 1/4 of what our population is, less than 1/4 of what our population is. So we'll grow. We'll need more cement. We'll need more steel. We'll need more aluminum. Now, CCUS, and I've been asking questions to all my interlocutors who come from abroad that, okay, you're talking about net zero by 2045, 2050, one or two countries 2045, some countries 2050. How will you do it? I mean, unless you have storage which is viable, which is affordable, you don't have round-the-clock renewable energy. If you don't have round-the-clock renewable energy, then you can't sort of phase out fossil fuels because you need electricity at night, even for heating, lighting, whatsoever. So it's one of my interlocutors, minister in a large developed country, he said that, no, we'll go nuclear. I said, how? I mean, that country has about 40% of its capacity coming from nuclear. I said, how much nuclear capacity will you add? Where will you store the waste? There's a question mark. There's a question mark. He talked about small modular reactors. Now, small modular reactors are only still under development, still under research. So, what's your path to net zero? CCUS, you don't have any commercial scale CCUS, even in your country, which is developed, which is a huge country. You just have pilot scale. I also have pilot scale CCUS. And even if you have CCUS, where do you sequester it? CCUS means carbon capture and sequestration. Where do you sequester it? So the answer was that we'll sequester it in the voids left by pumping out oil. So I said, what's the guarantee it won't leak back up? So these questions are there. So net zero has questions. Storage. Unless and until you have storage, you don't have round-the-clock renewable energy. If you don't have round-the-clock renewable energy, you don't have, you can't get to net zero. And storage is expensive. The lithium ion, the total capacity around the world would not exceed, I think, about 20 gigawatts or something like that. We are setting up. We had a PLI for battery storage. We are coming out with another PLI for battery storage. We are building capacities. The developed world did not do that. The 88%, 90% of the lithium processing is in one country, in China. The developed world talked about climate, but they did not add capacity. That's why we are where we are today. That's why the storage is not cheap. So these questions, they don't answer. They don't have answers for that. We are adding capacities. We'll continue adding capacities.
Would you want to raise these at the forum?
I do that. I do that. That's
all
the
time.
I do it all the time. So that's why they become very defensive when they come in front of.
Do they still like you?
I
being
don't,
so
I'm not
straight.
I don't. My constituents like me. I won elections twice.
Good. That's good.
That's
I
good
think that's
for
good.
me.
That's all that matters.
The people who need to vote for me, they vote for me. So fine. Yeah.